Hello everyone, I'm Victoria from Friar House. How are you all today? Thank you for joining me for my Friday Friar House Live. Just waiting for... Hi Heather, how are you? Thank you for joining. Oh my goodness. It's going to be a fun one today. Hi Meep, how are you doing? You should do a live with me. No way, she'd say. So we're just waiting for Henry to join. Now, I haven't got my glasses on today. I'm wearing my contact lens, and the phone is sort of not right in my face. So bear with me if I miss some of your comments. Hopefully, hi Leslie. Hopefully, when Henry joins, I'll get him to look out for comments too as well, because I love to, if you've got any questions, we love you to join in, and I don't want to miss anything out. Because hi Lucy, oh wow, Lucy's on. Lucy, you've got to do one with me soon. We'd have so much to chat about. I bet everybody knows Lucy. She's a well-known dealer from Portobello, and she has beautiful things. Who else is there? Oh, hello, Vintage Jeweler. Hello. Oh, there's a few of you. So I'm going to see if I can invite Henry. I can't. Oh, yes, Henry. How do I join? Okay, don't do anything. I'm going to invite you, Henry. So here we go. Invited, and you accept, and then you should be there. Have you received the invite, Henry? Yes, you have.
Here we go. I'm here.
I am so impressed. You are an Instagram pro, Henry.
Well, I wouldn't say that, but how on earth are you, my darling Victoria?
Well, I cannot tell you, I'm so excited. I've got a whole list of questions to ask you.
Excellent.
And pick your brains about everything antique and what you've been up. Oh, my light's just gone. We've had a malfunction. Oh, it's back on again now. There you go. That's the ghost of the shop. So what have you been up to? What have you been up to lately, Henry? Have you bought anything wonderful?
Yeah, I bought lots of wonderful stuff. I'd actually vowed to take some time off in August.
Yeah.
But unfortunately it hasn't happened. I haven't actually, well, actually I had 2 days off to go away with the wife and my daughter.
Yeah.
Over a weekend to see Gifford Circus in Gloucestershire, which was wonderful. But apart from that, it's been work all the way.
Don't you find, Henry, though, I think all of the antique dealers that are sort of listening to us now, we all say, oh, we're having a holiday, we're having a break. And I don't think that really exists in our world, does it? Because I don't know about you, but I'm always doing something to do with work, aren't you?
Well, yeah, I am. But I mean, my life is really one long holiday that I spend shopping the whole time.
Yeah, you're right, really, because I think all of us, whenever we go on holiday or we go abroad, we'll always, if there's like a pawnbroker's or there's an antique shop, and I've just got to stop. I just want to go and look in this window. Yeah. You can't help yourself, can you?
Yeah, you can't help it. You can't help it. It's in the blood.
Yeah, it's definitely in the blood. I think that's for sure. But Henry, I've known you for, I don't know, the last 20 odd years. Yep. And we've always been like chat. Sometimes we'll stop and put the world to rights at antique fairs at Ardingly if you can spare 5 minutes, because often if we're busy with customers, obviously we can't chat. But I never really knew, because I knew that you originally come from like West Sussex, Worthing way, don't you? You had a shop. But can you share your story, how you got into this wonderful business?
How long have you got? It started when I was a kid. I was fascinated by pirates and treasure, and it all kind of started from Robinson Crusoe and all that. And my dad built me my very own little treasure chest. And I was lucky enough to have a grandmother who'd come from very good stock. Her family started the Dunlop Rubber Company.
Really?
My grandfather was, his family had lots of cotton mills up around Stalybridge in Manchester.
Yeah.
And of course, over the years, as my grandfather used to buy property, and back in the 50s and 60s, you'd buy the house and the contents. And they never really threw anything away. So my grandmother used to let me go on treasure hunts with my brother around her house. And I mean, every cupboard was full, the loft rooms were full. And she had one particular room that we called the dog room. And it was about 30 feet long, 20 feet wide. Half of it was absolutely rammed with old suitcases, packing chests, tea crates, you know, the whole lot, cardboard boxes full of all this booty that they'd either inherited over the years or, you know, had just come down from, you know, various properties my grandfather bought. And I used to go rummaging and pick out anything I liked, which were little bits of silver, little bits of jewellery. I remember finding a little bag that had 4 gold sovereigns in it, which I still have.
Oh.
And my brother would look for all my grandfather's sort of, you know, war-related memorabilia and his RAF stuff. And I used to take stuff back home and put it in my treasure box.
Yeah.
Now, I would say that in the mid-70s, I was very young. I was 8 years old. And we had a very, very rough time as children, my brother and I. And in the mid-70s, my father decided to, shall we say, take a little holiday with another lady for a best part of a year, and left us in quite a big house with no money. And I used to hide under the dining table with my mother whilst the butcher and the milkman were banging on the dining room window wanting paying. So my mum eventually said, you have to take something out of your treasure box and take it around the town and see if we can get some money. So the first thing I picked out was a little Georgian silver hip flask. Took it round all the dealers. Now, back in those days in Worthing, there must have been 30 or 40 antique and junk shops. The most money I ever got offered was £3 for it. Then I hit on this dealer called Nick, and Nick is still my greatest friend in the trade today, and is not far from me at some of the fairs. Yeah. And I took it to Nick, and Nick looked at it and said, is this yours to sell? I want to phone your mum and find out. So he phoned my mother, and my mother said, yes, that's fine. Turned out it was by a rare maker who I can't actually remember. And Nick gave me 25 quid for it, which was a vast difference to the £3 I'd been off. So mum gave me a fiver, and we had enough money to pay the milkman, the butcher, and put food on the table. And with that fiver, I then started rummaging around local junk shops, trying to find something that I thought might be good. And for 3 quid, I bought myself a silver and enamel cigarette case. And I took it back to Nick, and Nick gave me 40 quid for it. And that's how it started.
You obviously had them, you obviously, you know, even from an early age, which I do believe that you've either got it or you haven't, don't you?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would agree with that. And, you know, I mean, I didn't really go to school very much. certainly in secondary school.
Were you a naughty boy, Henry?
No, it was called getting mercilessly bullied, basically. And so I just thought, I'm not having any of this. And so I would spend a lot of my days sitting in Nick's shop, watching what was coming in through the door. Nick would show me hallmarks, would show me what to look for, you know, the type of stuff you want to buy, the type of stuff you don't want to buy. And Nick always said to me, the thing that you've got to do is buy from the general public. She said, go and sit in auctions, watch the stuff, look at the stuff, see what it's making, then try and buy it privately. And I thought, well, I mean, at this point, I was probably about 12, I think. And I thought, who is going to listen to a 12-year-old lad or sell him anything? So fortuitously enough, at the local VG stores at the Thomas à Becket where we lived, they were looking for a delivery boy. So I applied for the job and got it. And they gave me this cast iron First World War butcher's bike with no gears, with a big tray at the front. And I had to deliver groceries to all the old people in the area, going for about 3 miles, you know, radius. In the rain, in the snow, in the boiling hot sunshine. And they soon got to know, as opposed to giving me 20p for delivering their groceries, you know, in the pouring rain, I wanted their old junk. And that's how it started.
So you got your foot in the door through being the delivery boy.
Basically. And then, I mean, you know, when my dad eventually came back to us, he would ferry me around in his car to various dealers, you know, from anywhere from Brighton, the Brighton lanes to, you know, Littlehampton, to Chichester. And, you know, I would sell my wares, or try to sell my wares, you know, and it was just great fun. Then by the age of 15, I had my first pitch in an antique centre in Arundel.
Wow.
So
I mean, it's funny, isn't it? Little things happen, and that literally it maps out your
yep,
direction of life of
yep,
what you're going to do.
yep.
But I think you're either a wheeler dealer or you're not, you know. And I think you're that sort of dealer, Henry. You know.
Yeah, I mean, I must confess, Victoria, I haven't bought from auction in 20 years.
Yeah.
I very rarely buy from the trade, but if I do buy from the trade, it's something that I just cannot live without. There's one piece I bought from you, I think, which was a Halley's Comet.
Oh, I remember that.
Brooch.
I love
Yeah,
that.
I love it too. I love it so much. I've still got it.
Oh, wow.
So there we go. You know, and
when it's ready to go, it will go. But they are so desirable, aren't they? Halley's Comets. Like, you know, just the significance of them. They were always made in a year, obviously, when Halley's Comet passed.
Yeah.
So, because I remember you said you collected them. I think you had a few, didn't you?
Yeah. I've got 4. Amongst other things. I mean, my major collection in the way of jewellery are sort of either really funky, quirky brooches, or I collect bug brooches. You know, I've got butterflies, I've got bees, I've got a locust, a Georgian locust brooch, which is fantastic. You know, and there's other quirky things. I mean, I've got one little bit here I can show you. That I really love.
So I was going to say, what.
And this,
what is your sort of favourite piece?
Well, this is not my favourite piece, but it's one of the quirkiest bits I've got.
Yeah.
Now let's see. There we go. And this is a diamond, ruby, sapphire, and enamel Spitfire brooch.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Is that
absolutely?
Is that signed by?
No,
that's like 1920s, isn't it?
No, it's later. It's about late 40s. I think. And even the propeller even moves on there as well.
Wow.
So you can whiz the propeller around on it. I love it.
I've seen because Cartier, I remember a friend of mine bought a fair in Italy, a Cartier, one in platinum with diamonds, the Cartier plane, and I remember seeing that, and it was absolutely a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
you know.
I mean, the brooch I've got is not quite the quality of Cartier, but
yeah,
you know.
But it's still a fun thing, isn't it? With
it's wonderful.
Propeller.
Yeah, it's wonderful. But I just, I mean, I just collect anything that I really love. I mean, I'm not, specifically in love with jewelry. I love silver. I love good porcelain, well, early porcelain, particularly Delft, English Delft I love. And yeah, I just kind of,
so you Henry, you've got quite a good varied knowledge, because my knowledge, my niche is mainly jewelry.
Yeah.
Along the way, I've sort of inadvertently picked up something and thought, that silver pillbox is nice, and I recognise the maker of that and things. But my direction's always been purely jewelry. I suppose maybe because I'm a woman and it's a feminine thing. But what would you say? You were saying jewelry's not particularly. What would you say is your particular interest? Do you have something that you really like? Something that you collect and that you're really mad about?
Well, there's two aspects to that. Number one, when it comes to dealing, I have to say probably my favourite thing to deal in is actually jewelry, because it's so portable. I remember the days of doing Ardingly Antiques Fair, where you'd turn up with 38 pieces of furniture and go home with 36, and you've got to get them off the van, get them on the van, you've got to polish them all up, etc. But I mean, I'm lucky enough, when I first kind of really started dealing, I went through everything. One of my passions was Staffordshire pottery figures. I loved those. That led on to sort of general china and porcelain, and then I liked clocks as well. And then when I opened my shop 34 odd years ago, it had to have everything: furniture, paintings. So I kind of, I've been through the whole kind of mill, really, and I wouldn't say in any way, shape or form that I'm an expert in any one subject. However, I've got a good general
grounded
knowledge.
General knowledge. Well, I think I mean, that is fantastic. Henry, I was saying to everyone before I invited you on, I haven't got my contact lens in, so I'm struggling to see questions, but I don't know. a couple of people, someone asked you, I think, where they could, it looked like a snowmobile. If my eyesight proves me right.
I did see that, a giant snowmobile sculpture.
Yes, was that right?
I have no idea where you would part with that. Where would you get rid of it?
What, that,
you know,
caught us both out. We didn't expect to get asked that, did we?
It has. It has. I didn't expect that at all. But I mean, I will do some digging, and if I can find someone that specifically wants one of those, I'll post it up on Instagram.
Oh, Blonde Star, Ashley's just said a diamond horseshoe from Henry. So
I remember.
Oh, that's gorgeous, Ashley. I love Blonde Star jewelry. I love her. She's like one of my favourites on here. But Henry, so how you told us a bit about how you got into this, and that your general knowledge, a bit about everything.
Yeah.
How did you end up getting on Dickinson's deals? How did you get involved with that?
Well, the researchers were round at Ardingly looking for new dealers for the show. Actually, specifically, it was for Secret Dealers, which was a similar show. Yeah, and a couple of people actually said to one of the researchers, Laura, what you want to do is go and check out Henry, because he's got such a variety, you know, from jewelry to silver to porcelain, etc., etc. Anyway, so she, unbeknown to me, she stood there for, you know, like half an hour watching me deal with people and talk to people, and then she came up to me and asked me if I wanted to do Secret Dealers. Initially, I actually said no, because my whole thing was, TV's killing the antiques trade, because everybody's getting to know what's what.
That, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then my darling wife said to me, "You'd be a fool not to do it."
Yeah.
So I rang Laura and I said, "Look, I'll have a go at this." And she said, "Well, look, we've been thinking, we'd like you to come for a screen test, but more than Secret Dealers, we'd actually like you to do Dickinson's Real Deal." And I went and did a screen test up in London, and there were a couple of things, a piece of porcelain and a piece of silver, which I actually told the researchers more about than they actually had on their information sheets. And they kind of do you have to talk to a researcher and they film you doing it, and then it goes off to, you know, the directors and all that, and they sort of say, well, yes, we think he's good enough. And luckily for me, they did.
And your face fits. Well, I do think you come across really approachable and genuine, and I mean, obviously I know you anyway, and I think that you are, and I think you work on it. Do you find, Henry, that you get recognized much through it?
Yeah.
Do you?
Yeah, I never forget, I don't know, a couple of years ago, I was walking down Chapel Road in Worthing, which is kind of like the main shopping street, and all of a sudden there's this screaming coming from across the road, "Henry! Henry! Henry!" And I'm looking around thinking, where's that coming from? And there's this woman, she's waving at me like that, going, "Henry! Henry!" And she shouted, "I see you on Deal or No Deal, and I think you're brilliant."
Oh.
And I shouted back, "Who do you think I am, Noel Edmonds?" But I do get embarrassed by it, because, you know, I'm not really Brad Pitt or anybody like that. You know, I'm just a dealer.
Yeah, he's just been shown on. But I mean, I'm glad that they've got people like you, because I think sometimes you think if your face fits but you've got no actual bloody knowledge about the stuff, because sometimes on the TV programs, and I'm sure you must watch them too, and you think that's completely wrong, or that, where did they get that price from?
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah, but I mean, even then, you know, there are certain, you know, sometimes when you're on camera, you come out with something, and then after you've done it, you think to yourself, actually, that was wrong. And, you know, and I think probably 99% of the dealers that are certainly on The Real Deal have, they have made mistakes, you know.
Yeah.
I remember one dealer turning around and calling an okimono an okimoto. So
well, actually, that's the sort of thing that I would do, even sometimes when I'm doing my lives and I talk. I think sometimes I'm getting the words out so quickly, my mouth isn't catching up with my brain.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
I do it all the time. But, you know, like I say, I'm a general dealer. I'm no expert, and we all make mistakes. So, you know.
Yeah, I think, Henry, that none of us really can say that we're particularly an expert. Even people that I would consider, you know, that have got a great knowledge on particular subjects, because I think, you know, in life itself, we're always learning, and we all do make mistakes.
Yeah.
And I agree with you actually about, because I posted something the other day and I knew full well the age of it. And I actually, what I do find I'm very mindful of is I never want to say something is, if it's earlier, I'd rather say it was later, you know.
Yep.
what I mean, than mislead people.
Yep.
And I said something was 1860, but I knew it was about 1840. It was earlier, and I put 1860. And it was only a friend of mine who said to me, "Oh no, you know, in a nice way, I'm always happy for people to correct me. I want people to correct me. How do you know if someone doesn't point out a mistake?" And they said, "No, that, you know, that's about 1840." And I said, "Do you know, I bloody know that it is. You know, I don't know why I said that, you know, but I think you've just what you've just said is right, Henry."
Yeah.
That,
Yeah. There's no point trying to mislead people.
no, but it's really good, isn't it, when, and I own your mistakes, because I always will.
Yeah.
You know, rather than sort of just buff it over and not admit to it. If you've made a mistake, just say sorry, and I've got that one wrong, and you know, I'll
I do that enough on the TV, I can tell you that.
because I want to ask you more about the TV stuff. So when they come along, are you actually, is that your real money?
Yes.
Really?
Yep. It's our real money, and it's our knowledge against the valuers on the, what they call the donut, which is kind of, everything goes to this big round sort of donut shaped table, and the valuers look at it, knowledge against ours. And the interesting thing is that sometimes you will get a valuer there that, although he works for an auction room, he hasn't got a clue, and he looks on his iPad. Now, one little thing. I remember I was given this poor old lady. She sat. She got to the show at 9 o'clock in the morning, and they put her on my podium at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She sat all that time waiting, and she had an Ansonia wall clock. It's an American wall clock with, it's got like a glass panel in the bottom that's painted with a typical sort of American country scene or something like that. And I looked at it, and I said to my director, I said, "Okay, why have they given this to me?" And, "Oh, well, the lady's been waiting, da 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 da." And I said, "Well, look, where's the pendulum for the clock?" And the producer went and got the valuer, who said, "There's a pendulum in there." I said, "No, that's not a pendulum. That's one of the lead weights from the 8-day movement. So you've got two weights. You've got one that controls the chime, and the other one that controls the pendulum." Anyway, turns out this valuer had got it completely wrong, didn't know what he was looking at. And they still, because she waited so long all day, they still put her on with me. I ended up paying, I think it was 45 or 50 pounds for this clock. By the time I got back home that night, the clock had fallen over and the glass had all smashed.
So you find you have those days though, don't you, where one scenario leads to the next, and you think, "Do you know what? I just wish I hadn't got out of bed today."
Yeah.
It would have been a cheaper day.
Yeah, it's when you're rushing to get out of a house clearance or a property or something like that, and you forget to tie that wonderful satin wood inlaid display cabinet on the side of the van, and as you go around the corner you hear this enormous crash, and then you just know what's happened.
Oh my goodness. But as to on Dickinson's Real Deal, also with David, do you, well, I suppose you're on live Instagram now, you can't really say, is David nice?
Yeah.
Is he?
Yeah.
Is that a natural tan or a fake tan?
Believe it or not, yes it is. He doesn't do tanning beds, he doesn't do toning stuff, bearing in mind that David is part Armenian, part Indian, and part English as well. I think there might be another line in there somewhere.
Really?
But yeah, his complexion is naturally dark. Now, the reason everybody says he looks orange is because it's the camera lights and the studio lights that kind of brighten him up a little bit. Looks like he's been eating Ready Brick in the morning, you know. But it is totally natural. David's lovely. He's a really, really nice guy.
spitting image almost have sort of done a sort of a copy of him, haven't they, with the orange, you know, the sort of makeup of him is quite funny. I've noticed on camera when David comes on, he sometimes wears the most beautiful armorial ring.
Yeah.
Do you know the ring I mean?
I do.
Do you know the story of that? Because that looks quite a nice ring to me. Sorry, I'm just really.
Funnily enough, no, I don't know the story behind that. I remember some years ago buying the most fantastic Roman intaglio ring from him, which I really wish I'd kept. But the one he's wearing now, I mean, it's just bits and pieces he's picked up, you know, over the years. You know, I mean, I've bought a few bits from him. I know other dealers on the show have bought a few bits from him as well. But he's quite a closed book, is David, because, you know, he'll never let out what he's got in the way of personal possessions. He's very private that way. Well, and you can understand that.
Yeah, I was going to say, you know, you might be on the TV, but there's certain things that, you know, you can't share and you've got to keep private, you know, just for security and, you know, and things like that. But and when
the gold croissant bracelet, as Robert from 1994, he does always wear that, and that is actually it's Etruscan revival, and it's made by Elias Lalunis.
Oh yes. Of Lalanus, yes, because I've seen him wear that.
Yeah,
really, I didn't know that.
And I've been trying to buy that off him for years.
Oh yes, no, I know the bracelet that you mean. Yeah, when I think about it. But so, are you in the filming now for future episodes, or have you filmed already?
Yeah, basically, ITV. Because of ITVX that's crashed and certain presenters that did inappropriate things that made the ITV share price crash, ITV had laid on, we for the last 2 or 3 years, we've only been offered half series at the start of the year, then they renegotiate, and then they do the rest of the series later in the year. Because of all the cost of living crisis, because of, you know, inappropriate behaviour by certain presenters, because of ITVX and the amount of money they've thrown at it, they've actually taken the contract off the table. So it's not looking likely we're going to be filming any more this year. However, we are quietly confident that they will offer us another series next year, because at the end of the day, you know, Real Deal is the most popular daytime show across all the channels.
I think, out of all the antique shows, I mean, obviously on the BBC, there's the Antiques Roadshow, which I think is, you know, the one that everybody watches on a Sunday with their roast dinner.
Yeah, of course.
But no, as to daytime TV, I think Dickinson's Real Deals, it's been going for years, hasn't it? So, and I think the format of it, you know, where you sit at the table, you put your money down, put your money where your mouth is. And I think people really like that, where, you know, it's take the dealer's price or send it to auction. Talking about that, Henry, have you had any awkward times where you've made an offer and they haven't accepted, and then it's gone and made a load in auction?
What, on the TV?
Yes. In the show,
There's been a few. Funny enough, actually, we filmed in Cirencester in Gloucestershire a few weeks ago, and there was I think it was Lady came on with a whole load of royal commemorative letters from the Queen Mother, as I recall. And you know, and I looked at it all, and I just thought to myself,
how do you value those?
Well,
how do you value them?
You can't. You know, and the whole point is, I think I offered about 200 quid or 300 quid for the whole lot. It might even have been 100, actually, I can't remember. And then the valuers had put a conservative, quote unquote, estimate of £4,000 to £6,000 on this lot. And I was just like, really? You know, and you know, I've had a couple of things, you know, I've offered £200 or £300 for that have made, you know, a couple of grand or whatever. But then I've had a couple of things that I bought very reasonably, not realising quite how good they were. So, you know,
well,
I can't.
It happens, doesn't it? It happens to the best of us. And I find for me, sometimes I've had things that I've had the opportunity to buy over the years, and they stick in my mind. and there's like a sort of a gut reaction that I'm like, oh, I should have bought that, and then it appears somewhere
Yeah.
at loads more money, and I don't beat myself up too much about it, but I try and log it, you know, and think, well, next time,
Yeah.
if there is ever a next time.
The one that always cracks me up is when you're at a fair and you sell something to someone, for however much it is, and then the following fair they come back to you and they say, "Do you remember that vase I bought from you last fair?" "Yes." "Have you got any more?" And then you've really made a mistake.
Yeah.
So
I've actually had that a couple of times at Kempton with sort of ethnic jewelry and things like that, because I have to say, guys, I haven't got a clue, really.
I haven't either.
Some of this early stuff, I'm just, I need to read up on it more, because I think some of that can really, some of the tribal jewelry and things like that, early stuff can be very obscure. And if you've got a good knowledge in that, then you can really, you can really do well. You can really score.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, it's the thing is with that stuff is that, the experts on that, just give you an example, a pair of Chinese brush pots that get put into an auction with an estimate of 80 to 120 and they make 28,000.
Oh.
Now, the only people that actually know are the buyers, and they will not impart their knowledge to you.
No. Of course not.
And it's the tribal stuff and the ethnic stuff. And even, when it comes to South Sea Island bits and pieces, anything Maori, all this stuff. I mean, you can look at two things. They look exactly the same. One's 17th century, one is 1980s. And the one that's 17th century, you might sell it for 50 quid and it's worth 10 grand,
Yeah, it's
but you'll never know.
It's quite scary and gut wrenching, isn't it? On the other note, Henry, can you share what's been your best ever buy? And can you even share the story of how you bought it? Have you got any juicy stories of anything?
Yeah, I've been racking my brains actually to think of the name. It was a painting I bought, and there was a guy. That was helping clear out a deceased antique dealer's property.
Yeah.
And he used to run a junk shop in Rustington. And this guy was all like that. It was all like this. He was like, right, Henry, now there's nothing you can tell me about anything, because I had an antique shop in the 80s and I know it all. And so I went to see him, and he cleared a lot of the stuff out and put it all into this container, and he was pulling bits and pieces out. And, this antique dealer, right, he's got this jewellery box, right? And I said, well, that's a nice box. He went, yeah, it's quite nice, isn't it? I said, well, how much do you want for the box? He went, well, I wouldn't take less than 40 quid for it. Anyway, so I said, I'll buy it for that. Put it on the back of the van. When I actually got home, it was full of jewellery, and he hadn't even looked. But anyway, the best one. So the same guy, he had this painting, and it was unframed. It needed relining, restretching. It needed restoration work, and it was by a French. Emile Hubelin was the artist.
Wow! It drops back in.
Yeah, drops back in, and it was beautiful. It was a girl. It was a large portrait of this girl sitting on a bench, feeding ducklings while she was holding a bird's nest in her lap. And he said to me, I've got something really good here, H. I've got something really, really good, right? I don't think you've got enough money on you to be able to afford to buy it, son. Do you know what I'm saying? And I was like, okay. I said, well, look, Ken, to cut to the chase, Ken, come on. How much do you want for it? He went, you ain't going to believe how much I want for this. I'm like, okay, go on then. He went, you sure you carry this sort of cash with you? And I went, well, I don't know, because you haven't told me how much you want for it. He went, listen, son, I wouldn't take less, no less, son, than 600 notes. And I just stepped back and I said, I think you're on the money, but I'll have that.
Just grab it and run.
It was a bit like that, actually. And that made £32,000 at auction as it was.
Oh, Henry. Well done.
Yeah, that was okay. Off the same guy, I had a albeit it was on a stand and it said it was a Japanese bronze. It was actually a Ming Dynasty Chinese bronze that he put in with the scrap brass. And that went to auction and made 14,000.
Crikey. I mean, I
That was a good call.
it's all these things like Ming Dynasty, Chinese porcelain. They're all the things that you hear someone, you know, bought at a boot fair for 50p and made 100,000, you know, in a Hong Kong sale.
I know.
And it's like, and they're often the things that hit the Antiques Trade Gazette, don't they? Because they're you know a bloody good story, a great story. But you, that
was a good call.
You mentioned to me, because I think the followers will be really interested to hear. Can you tell us, because I was going to say, have you got any really good stories that you can tell? And you were saying about, you know, apart from obviously you've been involved in Dickinson's Real Deals, but have you ever been on the TV before? And you said to me, you've been on ITV News, haven't you, for something else?
Actually, no, it wasn't ITV News.
Wasn't it?
It was actually Crime Watch.
Oh, Crime Watch.
Yeah.
Come on, tell us. How did Henry get on Crime Watch?
I was on there twice actually, and on the second one, the guy that played me in you know the actor that played me in the story. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And this guy was about 6'7" tall, and you know, I mean like 5'8", and this guy was, you know, and he was spivved up to beyond belief. You know, it was like he just walked out of the Burlington Arcade, darling, don't you know? Anyway, cut a long story sideways. So I had this chap that used to come into the shop, bold as brass, and he was selling me antiques. And apparently the story was that he'd cleared out his aunt's house up in Norfolk, and he brought it all down to storage down here, and he was selling the stuff off because the aunt had passed away. Now, the first time he ever turned up at the shop, he had this pair of enormous paintings that he was carrying by the strings. And I'm not kidding you, they were both like 5 foot wide, you know, 3'6" deep. Lovely paintings, very much in the style of J.M.W. Turner, but they were oils. And you know, they had these, you know, Norfolk trade labels on the back of them, etc., etc. And that was that. And I bought all sorts of stuff from him, loads of it. And I remember one day he came in and he had a box of china and bits and pieces, and he had this pair of, this is going to sound so cliche, he had this pair of bronze candlesticks. One of them absolutely stank and was covered in this slimy goo. And I remember standing at the sink at the back of the shop, scrubbing this candlestick away to get rid of all the gunk. Anyway, next thing I hear, there had been a lady called Jean Barnes, who was one of the first blue chips, which I think was one of the first lady, I think, on the stock exchange. I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah.
And she'd been found murdered in Worthing, and no one could get to the bottom of it. I didn't think of anything. The police came in, actually, whilst she was still alive, I think. The police came into the shop and said, we've had a report of 2 large paintings and an onion top barometer that have been stolen from a local property. So I look on the wall of the shop and I said, well, there's 2 large paintings and there's an onion top barometer that I just bought from this chap.
The item.
And he said, oh, no, that's way too big. Those paintings are way too big. They can't be those. So I was like, okay, fine. Anyway, next thing we heard that she'd been murdered. And then sometime later, they featured the murder on Crime Watch. And then sometime later, a week or so later, a lady identified the handwriting on the note to the milkman. This chap, I'm not going to name him, but this chap was, Google it if you want to. This chap was arrested and charged with her murder. I heard about this and I thought, before they come to me, I'm going to go to them. So I went down to Worthing Police Station, walked in and said, look, if this chap from this address has been arrested and charged with the murder of Jean Barnes, I just wanted you to know that I've been buying antiques off him for some time. And then I then had to get everything back that I'd sold, that I'd bought from him, which meant trailing around all the
Oh,
fairs, trying to track down dealers.
Henry.
Da, 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 da. It was a horrific. It ended up costing me 10,000 quid.
Very
That's what it cost me.
simple, but what a story.
Yeah, and basically I had 5.5 hours in the dock, Lewis Crown Court, whilst they were, you know, arguing. I made the mistake of looking through the sort of the witness photo album, which I wish I'd never done. But yeah, it was pretty horrific.
Crikey.
And so Crime Watch did two things. They did a Crime Watch skit on it. Well, not skit, but they did a Crime Watch thing on it where they kind of told the story, and then they did a Crime Watch revisited later on where they kind of showed how forensics had got to the bottom of this, that, whatever else.
Oh, I quite
yeah.
when they did that. Yeah, when they just tell the story of the whole plot and put it together. So I quite enjoy those. But
yeah,
that must have been, because although, you know, it's great listening to you tell that story, it's really interesting, but that must have been very stressful and
it was
in dock. Henry.
It was absolutely horrific, and the guy that actually murdered her really tried his best to discredit me in court. He lied to the court and told the court that, you know, I'd bought certain things off him that I never had, that I'd been round to, you know, to his flat more times than I had. I only went round there twice. You know, and he started naming all this stuff and saying, oh, well, you know, this is a bent antiques dealer. He won't tell you all the best stuff he bought, this, that, whatever. And I have to admit, you know, whilst I was standing in the dock being questioned, I could feel his eyes burning into my head.
Oh, Henry, did you think someone's just had the sticky candle, had the sticky candle stick, can you read that, stick, been used in the murder?
Well, that is actually what the police reckon.
Oh!
However, the problem is I sold the candlesticks, and I got confused. I sold two things, right? Two things. One was sold for cash. The candlesticks, I sold the candlesticks for 150 quid, and I sold a Tunbridge Ware box for 150 quid. The Tunbridge Ware box was paid for by cheque, and then the candlesticks were sold for cash. For some reason, in my stock books, I transposed them and put the candlesticks being sold as by a cheque, and they were sold to an American dealer.
Just made a mistake, like we were saying earlier.
Yeah. And so the police got the judges and the courts to do one of those things where they can open up bank accounts and find out who it is and whatever else.
Forensic search.
Yeah.
And
they traced the check back to this dealer in America. And cut a long story sideways, it turned out she hadn't bought the candlesticks. And from what I remember, I think the police had actually sent a detective over there to try and retrieve them, and so I was not very popular.
No, but I think thank you for sharing that. I think that's like something you must have just been so glad to see the back of and being involved.
Well, yeah, but Victoria, as with all this stuff, it's not over yet because he's actually due out fairly soon. So,
but you know, Henry, like all of us as antique dealers, we're all buying things that have had histories, they've been owned. And I reckon we've all owned things that have been stolen, or, you know, some foul play has happened at some point. It's very nature, isn't it? You know, we never do it intentionally, but of course, you know.
I used to have, at the shop, there used to be around the corner from my shop was this little junk shop called the Clutter Box. And back in those days, I used to have this 6-foot trestle table out the front of my shop. Everything was like 2 quid or 3 quid an item. It was all end of parcel stuff or house clearance stuff. And the little lad that ran the shop round the corner hadn't got a clue. And he rang me up one day and he said, H, you've got to come round. I've just bought the most fantastic load of antiques. You'll love it. It's right up your street. So I went round there and he said, yeah, I've got it all off this little old lady. Turned out the little old lady had stood outside my shop filling her shopping trolley with all my stock and then taken it round and sold it all to Rob. And Rob was delighted. He thought it was like, you know, he thought it was all this wonderful Fabergé treasure. That's hilarious. So you just, you know,
Oh,
you just never know what day's going to bring.
oh, yeah. It's well, that's like that's. I think that's the beauty, Henry, of what we do. You know, when
Yep.
we go to antique fairs,
Yeah.
you know, you get up and you know you think, what will today bring? Even you know what you might buy in, what you sell, the dealers that you meet, and people that you come across.
Yeah.
It's
It's fantastic.
it's a business, really, isn't it?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, I've been doing this all my life, and
Yeah.
every single day, even now, I look forward to getting up and going to work in the morning. And we're lucky for that. How many people can actually say that?
Yeah. No, I always agree. You know, and some days shit happens. You know, you know, things tend to sort of come along, don't they, in threes and things. You think, oh God, what's going to happen next? But I think I just always try and turn a negative into a positive. That's my outlet, you know.
Definitely.
And just even if some days, you know, some days I go up to Kempton and I'm there walking around, I think, oh my God, I feel crap today. But you know, like you said, we've got the freedom, we work for ourselves, and you know, you're in control of your own destiny, which I think is,
I think,
you know, key.
Victoria, the same could be said for all of us. You know, that you know, none of us are employable.
No.
We're all completely unemployable.
Yeah.
You know, and to a degree, I think anyone who's an antique dealer, whether they be jewelry, furniture, porcelain, I think we're all eccentric.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
You know.
I mean, every dealer I know, and I think, but that's what I love about it, and I think that's why we all have a connection. Because Henry, you know, I know you've got mutual friends that I have as well within the trade. And, you know, if we both weren't in this trade and have met through the trade, you know, would you be friends? But it's funny, it sort of brings us all together in a way, doesn't it?
It does.
You know, this crazy business. It's, you know, the connection. But I want to move away and talk about some of your personal stuff, like on Instagram with your cooking. So are you the chef in the house?
I am. I'd always actually said if I hadn't been an antique dealer, I would have been a chef.
Yeah, I could see you like running a pub or something, or, you know, like a gourmet pub.
Well, I had this idea a few years ago about opening up a restaurant. Okay, and everything in the restaurant, from the dining table you're sitting down at to the cutlery you're eating with, to the plates, to the glasses, all of it would be for sale. And then I thought to myself, that is going to be hard work to replenish everything. Yeah, you know. And I'm not, you know, I couldn't be doing, you know, covers for 20 tables. All this marketing, you know. The stress. I find cooking. Gordon Ramsay swears. Yeah. Well, I do as well, I must admit. Yeah. But, you know, cooking for me is the way I relax. I get home from work, prepping up with a glass of wine, put a bit of music on, and I've never been a recipe follower. You know, I always make it up as I go along. So no one of my dinners has ever been seen. I love your Sunday posts. You know, when you post a roast dinner. Oh yeah. Because often you do that, and we're getting our roast dinner ready at home. And I'm thinking, oh, we should have a roast dinner off. Yeah.
But yours look pretty good, because I love a Yorkshire pudding. You do, don't you? I do. Yeah, I do. I love my Yorkshires. But I love cooking. You know, it's great. But I can't face eating early in the morning. No. You know, I'm not a breakfast person. No. And you like a nice bottle of red wine, don't you? Oh yes. You often yeah, I love the fact that you do that, Henry, and I think it shows the human, your other side, you know, to you, because I think you need to post more jewelry, because you don't post that much jewelry. I don't post it, and there's a good reason for it. I mean, I will probably start posting, you know, a little bit more stuff, you know, a few fresh bits of stock, etc. But it's kind of, I work with my son Peter, and you know, we do the fairs together, and everything we buy is bought privately. And I must admit, over the past 2 months, I have bought some fantastic jewelry, but I haven't taken it out yet because it doesn't sell in the summer. No. But the reason I don't post loads up on Instagram, apart from my dogs and my food and my booze and whatever else, is because when we get to the fairs,
you know, it's everybody knows it's fresh to the
Yeah,
market
people
and
like,
not being
yeah,
posted, you know, across the internet beforehand.
yeah.
You know, I mean, I can show you one nice little fresh bit of
Yeah, I was
stock.
just say let me some stop. But did you see one of the followers put, Henry, stay in antiques, Henry. The world isn't ready for your food.
That's obviously someone that's eaten some of my
Yeah,
food.
that's someone that knows you, I think.
Yeah, I actually missed that comment, so I'll let him get away with that. I can take that on the chin. I can take it. But
Well, I always think
this is one of the nicest pieces of jewellery I've had in a
come on,
long
show
time.
us, Henry. People love
Let's
to
see
see the jewels.
if we can
That's
get
what
to
it's
it.
all about. Oh my goodness, Henry, that is absolutely beautiful. Now, I if you can you hold it up a little bit high, because I'm being blocked by all the comments. Oh wow! So that is a
It's Victorian. It's a dove.
swallow with,
It's actually, I think it's a dove.
it's a dove, is it? And it's
Yeah.
got oak leaves.
It might be a swift. It could be a swallow. It could be a blackbird for
Yeah,
all I know.
yeah.
Ornithology was never my thing.
And it's
But
got oak leaves, enamel oak leaves, and
yeah,
dangling hearts with diamonds,
yeah,
wasn't it?
yeah,
That is beautiful.
absolutely fantastic. And then, you know, taking away from that, one thing I've got to do a bit more research from is this, which I'm going to have to. It's quite large actually, but it's not just jewellery I buy. You see, I love anything decorative. And I know the Silver Boys are going to absolutely love this, but I've got to research it. Now, this came out of the Lord Mayor's office, not recently, but back kind of in about 1916 or 17. And this is
What's this?
a silver mirror by Goldsmiths and Silversmiths Company.
Fantastic maker.
And you've got the armorials, the coats of arms. You've got the kings, queens, and whoever else it might be. And if anybody can identify these buildings at the bottom, hang on, where's the other one gone? No, that's not it. We go the other way.
Wow, it's got buildings, because
it's fantastic.
You know, I've said this before, but not that I know much about silver, but I've seen these. You get those silver snuff boxes. Is it by Nathaniel Mills? And they're often
yeah, and all the what they call castle top ones.
Yes,
they're,
you know, like
anything
three-dimensional, and they're beautiful quality.
They are, and Nathaniel Mills is the most collected, you know, out of all of them. But even, you know, even with that stuff, I mean, you know, unless it's particularly rare, a lot of that stuff has actually dropped in value, because, you know, it was a certain type of person that would collect them, you know, the older generation, and now as they're kind of, you know, departing the mortal coil, you know, the stuff is coming onto the market, and as with a lot of other stuff, it's not making what it used to make.
No.
You know, there's so much stuff like that, which is such a shame. But then, in a way, you know, people complain that brown furniture doesn't sell, or, you know, or Dalton figurines don't sell, or this, that, whatever. But there are still youngsters that are interested. And the good thing about the prices dropping like this, and it just makes it more affordable for a lot of younger people. You know, and I do sell bits to young people.
Well, that's good to hear, because without young people getting into this trade and showing interest in it, and even us resharing it on Instagram, you know, it's not going to keep the trade going. So we absolutely need to encourage new people to start in the antiques business.
Yeah, absolutely.
And, like your son is dealing, isn't he? And my son does it too. And is he doing well? Is he doing well? I suppose he's learned from his dad.
Well, he's learnt some from me, but I would say with Peter that Peter is he's a very clever cookie. He will research stuff, you know, in the evening, you know, or wherever he might be. He'll be looking online, he'll be looking at different things, and he's got a very broad knowledge. He knows a good thing when he sees it. His knowledge on jewellery and wristwatches, and even Oriental porcelain, specifically Japanese, he has learned all that himself. You know, every now and again he will ask me a question, and I'll give him the answer as best as I can. With that answer, he goes out and he finds out more. You know, and that's he's very clever. He's a clever boy. He's a clever boy.
I mean, he's got a bit from his dad, but he's actually going in his own direction. And I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah.
If you're going to get into this business, is
Yeah.
find your feet, find what works for you and what you're
Well, I mean, my advice to anybody that is, you know, any youngsters out there.
Yeah, because I was going to do that, so we're covering
you know,
that. Yeah.
My advice to any youngsters, anybody coming into the trade, is don't stick to one subject. The reason being that, as you and I, Victoria, both know, sometimes the jewellery trade can be disastrously quiet. So, you know, luckily for me, we've got our fingers in other pies, so we can cover when the jewellery side of things is quiet. You know, we can concentrate on silver, or we can concentrate on, you know, paintings or wristwatches or whatever else. And you know, that would be my advice to people, youngsters coming into the trade, is to pick 2 or 3 things that you like and have a bit of diversity. But the one most important thing is only ever buy the most expensive thing you can afford. Because if you buy a good thing and it takes all your money, you'll always be able to sell it. You could buy, you could have £1,000. You could buy one thing for £1,000. You could turn it over for 1,300 quid. Okay, you buy 10 things for £100. You might sell 4 or 5 of them, and then you're saddled with the other bits.
The wrong ones.
Yeah, basically.
Basically.
I mean, my shop is what I call the Black Museum. You know, because it's full of all the stuff I can't sell. You know, I kind of, you know, it's, and I look at things, I think, blimey, I've had that 10 years.
But you know, even things you've had for 10 years, because we all have things that just don't want to go, they don't want to leave us, and then eventually someone comes along and they buy them, and then, you know, sometimes when I've been at fairs and I thought, oh, I just want to sell that, I'll just get my money back or a small loss, and they're like, I'll have that, and then you think, God, I think I'd have actually got a profit out of them. But you know, it's.
I mean, do you know, one of the funniest things? Our dear recently departed friend Martin.
Oh, love Martin.
Bless
I'm sorry to go to the wake. I missed you there.
Yeah, I couldn't make it, unfortunately.
No.
But Martin was a dear friend of mine.
I couldn't make it, but yeah, it's one of those things.
Yeah. But he used to take stuff from me. And he'd say, if you've got anything that you've had hanging around you want to get rid of, he said, just let me have it. And so I'd say, okay. And, you know, there were a couple of pieces of jewellery that I had for about 5 years. And I think one of them would cost me £2,500. And I said to Martin, it cost me £2,500. I'd like a profit, if not money back. The same fair, he sold it. He gave me 2,600 quid back for it. And he sold it to the same dealer who'd picked it up on my stand 5 or 6
times. That, yeah, isn't it weird?
Work it out.
And it's the face. It's almost like, not that they don't like your face, Henry, but it's the confidence that maybe they think, oh, Henry really knows what he's doing, and we won't be able to make a profit. But maybe with Martin, Martin knew what he was doing too. But you know, I don't know. You don't know what it is. How some people just feel like a really good rapport of buying from some people, and they don't from others. And you know, and it's almost like they get a good vibe. Everything they buy from them, they sell well. And some people buy stuff and it just doesn't want to go. And it's like, there's no rhyme or reason, really, is there?
No, there isn't.
It is really strange.
But I mean, I like to think everybody can earn money out of me. You know, I will always take a bid from people. If it sees me a decent profit, I will take a bid. You know,
your name came up at my ladies' lunch, you know, Henry.
Oh, really?
Yes, on Wednesday.
You were with Charlotte, weren't you? Yeah, she's lovely. I love Charlotte. She's fantastic.
Because I've done a live with Charlotte. I'm going to do a live with Pip and Helen from Featherweight. But what I might do is I might go to their shop and we might do a live, all 3 of us together. We were saying about that. But anyway, Charlotte said, who is your candidate this week? And I said, well, it's Henry. And she said, oh, I love Henry. And she said she's bought some fantastic things from you. You've got a fantastic eye. So
Charlotte, thank you.
Talking about you at the Ivy in Kensington.
Lovely.
On Wednesday.
Lovely. Love it. So, it's just Charlotte's beautiful. She's a lovely girl.
Yeah, I mean she's so glamorous, and she's a really switched on business lady, isn't she?
Oh, she is that. She is that.
So yeah, it was fun lunch just to catch up and, you know, talk, because we've all, as you and I, have got this business in common. So, and it's just lovely to sort of meet up in real life sometimes and actually have time and have a chat and have a drink and relax and not feel stressed at a fair.
I've said to you before, and I'll say it again, if you ever find your way over my neck of the woods, come and have Sunday lunch.
Oh God, that's so lovely, Henry. I'd love to come for a dog walk.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your babies, your doggies.
Yeah, my babies. Poor old Katie's been through the mill. She's had 4 operations in 8 weeks.
Henry, I see that. Feel my heart. I could cry.
Oh, it's grass seeds. Grass seeds.
What is that with the bloody grass seeds? What happens?
What happens is, they're like grass fronds that look a little bit like ears of corn.
Yes.
And basically, they break into little bits, and they're like darts. And with Katie, she's quite furry.
Yeah.
And so what happens is she runs through the grass. Double doodle.
A double doodle, right? Okay.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Yeah.
And so they run through the grass, and the little fronds break off, and they get matted into the fur. And for some reason, they are able then to burrow their way into the skin of the animal, and they can migrate up the leg.
Oh my God.
Yeah, the vet actually pulled 5 grass seeds, 5 spikes out of one hole, and the vet said in all the years she's been dealing with grass seeds, she'd never ever seen that many in one hole. And it kind of made me feel like a really bad dog owner. But the problem is you can't see them. So we've had a clipped, and she's got a poodle cut on her paws, which has made it better, and so it makes it easier to pull. I mean, even yesterday, I took her out for her first walk in 8 weeks yesterday, and she came back. I checked her paws; there were 2 in her back foot. Just sitting there waiting to burrow their way in.
Oh, Henry, I mean, that must make you. I mean, should there be places that you should maybe avoid walking her? Or?
Well, yeah, people say. I mean, I've walked her primarily just on playing fields.
Yeah.
And kept her away from the long grass. And people say, well, walk them on the beach. But where we are here in Worthing, along the beach, where the promenade is, you're not allowed to take dogs at this time of year. And then where it goes up towards Ferring, basically you've got a big green, you've got the big grassy bank that goes to the edge of the beach, and then you can walk them on the sand. Walking them on the sand is fine, but you've still got to bring them through the long grass to get them back to the car. So it's the only other thing is either woodland or pavements, street walks. But I don't like doing pavement walks.
This must be quite a common thing, with dogs.
It is. It is.
Because when I read your post and you've said about the grass seeds, I presume she was sniffing them up her nose. No. I didn't realise. No,
you can. They can get stuck in the leg, under the armpits. They can go in the ears. They can go in the mouth. They can go in the nose. And they're nasty things. It can be fatal. Yeah. It can be fatal. Yeah.
Oh, Henry. I mean, it's as if you haven't got enough to worry about. Because I know you are very much like me. I mean, I remember one Kempton. I saw Leslie. Our friend Leslie. And my dog had disappeared, but he'd come back. I'd got a text that he'd come back, but I'd had to come up to the market knowing that he'd sort of gone walkabouts, and I was beside myself, and so I relate to anybody with animals or dogs. People that follow me know how I am, and well, you make yourself sick with worry, don't you?
You do. The thing is, that with dogs specifically, they are so bloody loyal. Yeah. And they give you so much love. Yeah. That if anything goes wrong,
they don't care if you smell, you're thin, you're fat, whatever.
Yeah. That's my 2, down to a T, really. Oh. They're absolutely fantastic dogs.
Oh, well, I love seeing you share your stories with them, because to me, a lot of my feed is jewellery and animals. Yeah. And sometimes annoying bloody ads, which I'm not interested in whatsoever, which irritate the life out of me. But Henry, before I say goodbye to you, what are all your shields on the wall? What's all that about?
I'm coming to you directly live from my office at home. So we've got
UK.
All these, everything I've got in my office, it all tells a story.
Yeah.
Everything's come from specific calls, very good calls I've done, or not so good calls. And one or two things on the wall. The painting in the middle there,
Yeah.
I bought as a John Constable painting.
Wow.
Paid a lot of money for it.
Crikey.
Apparently it came from the studio sale of Constable's workshop back in the late 1800s. Had it looked at by the world's renowned expert on Constable paintings, who took one look at it and said fake. So that was that. But everything, everything here, it all has a story.
Yeah. I love that you've got all that on the wall.
Yeah, I mean the armorials. The one at the top is from a carriage.
Yeah.
Early 18th century carriage armorial. The shield with the knight's helmet in the middle there, and a bit of
I can see that.
Latin underneath.
Yeah.
That came from a very, very well-to-do family in Norfolk. And other bits and pieces. My major passion, though, I have to say, is my collection of Victorian bottles. And let's try and just.
Because you were going to tell me about that. Let's see that
enamel,
before we go.
Enamel signs. Look, I love all that.
Oh, I love enamel signs. Oh, and they're fantastic.
Yeah, that's just. This is just a fraction of it. Fraction of it, and then look on the windowsill as well. And then we go round to the other thing I'm passionate about, which is rock and pop memorabilia, specifically Led Zeppelin.
Oh my goodness me, Henry! That's amazing. Henry, did you? I've got a feeling. I don't know if it was the Led Zeppelin manager or one of the guys from Led Zeppelin band. I think he lived somewhere near me, somewhere around Hastings or Battle.
Not that I know of. I think Robert Plant lives up in Kidderminster. Yeah. Jimmy Page lives in Windsor.
Maybe it was it their manager, because I can remember.
Yeah, well, Peter Grant. He was a manager. Grant. He lived in Eastbourne. Yeah, he lived in Eastbourne.
Yeah, that's it. Peter Grant. I always remember seeing years ago, about 20 years ago, he had a Range Rover, and I think it was LZ something or other.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know a Peter Grant actually, but it's not him. Another Peter Grant, who's an antiques dealer, funnily enough. But
not somebody I've come across actually.
No, well, he comes from Hastings, and maybe he'll do a live at some time. But and he's often. I'll have to introduce you to him actually, because he's often at Arding Line.
Oh, okay.
He buys a lot from France, but he's got a really fantastic eye, and I don't think he's got it anymore. But he used to have a shop down in the Old Town in Hastings. Yeah. But and he would specialise in luggage and things like that. So but yeah, really lovely guy, and he loves his job too. So I'm surprised. I can imagine you must have met him. But anyway, I tell you what, the next Arding Line, I'll bring him in and introduce him to you, because he sorts out not far from you. And I think it's all about who you know, isn't it? In this business.
It is. And any new contact is a fantastic contact.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Would you say you're an introvert or an extrovert?
Definitely an introvert.
Really? Because I was thinking when I asked that question, I thought, well, the way you are, because you're on TV and you're always so chatty and friendly, I think that I would say you're an extrovert. But no, there you go.
I don't think so. I mean, when I wouldn't say that when I'm on the telly it's an act, because it's not. What you see with me, it's that. But I'm when it comes to business, and friends, I'm bubbly, etc., etc. But when I have my own time, I'm very introverted. Yeah. I always think of an extrovert as being somebody like Danny LaRue.
Yeah, no, you're not like that. No, I think you're absolutely right, Henry.
Only on a Saturday night, darling.
And I always ask everybody this, and I love that, because I love my movies. I don't know if you're a movie buff, but have you got an all-time favourite movie?
Yes,
I've got to share it with us. Go on.
It is the original version, the Hitchcock version of Rebecca.
Oh my
God!
Where
Daphne du Maurier. Sorry, not Daphne. Joan Fontaine and God, brain's gone dead.
Yeah, but I know the feel. I mean, they have done well, they've made lots of.
Yeah, I didn't like the rerun.
No,
like the black and white. I mean, I love black and white films. I love them all. You know, and things like Waterloo Bridge and The Winslow Boy. All those old. I'm showing me age now.
Oh. Henry, if you won 10 million, this is a random figure, tomorrow, what would you spend it on?
What would I spend it on? I would.
Really, isn't it?
It's not really. I would buy myself a very nice house in the country, but I would also make substantial donations to animal sanctuaries and animal charities.
Do good.
Yeah,
that's what I would want to do.
Yeah.
Do some good. Make a difference.
Victoria, I've learned. You know, I've had money in the past. I've been totally skint, and I've learned that there is more to life than money.
Yeah.
And it's all about, it's all about happiness within. And, money pays the bills.
Yeah.
But, can you imagine how some of these very rich oil tycoons, how bored they must be?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we just bought another jumbo jet. Oh, yeah, we just bought another skyscraper in New York. I mean,
No, I mean, it means anything anymore.
It doesn't. Everything I've got, I've worked my nuts off to get. So I've worked hard in my life, and everything I have, I'm happy with.
Oh,
who needs money?
Henry, what would be your perfect evening out?
That's actually an extremely easy question. My perfect evening out would be with my wife, drinking cocktails and eating Spanish tapas.
Oh, yeah, it's just the simple things. That, to me, I think I'd rather do that than go to some fancy restaurant. In fact, occasionally I've gone to fancy restaurants and I think, God, I'd just rather, go.
Yeah, and you pay 75 quid to get 3 peas on a plate surrounded by a bit of mayonnaise. No, I like my grub.
Yeah, I'm like that. It's all too, the cordon bleu is not so much my taste, really. Are you left or right-handed?
Right-handed.
Ah, I think last week, who did I have last? I think the last person was left-handed. So it's evens. There's it was panning out more lefties than rights, but no, we're sort of, it's about even Stevens now.
Yeah.
But I think we've been chatting for over an hour. Can you believe it?
Blimey, we have as well, haven't we? Because I told you I could talk for England.
I know, but
we've not even touched half of my adventures, Victoria. What I will do, I have actually spent quite a long time, although I haven't done anything recent months, but I've been writing my memoirs of my life in the trade.
Are you going to?
Yeah, I'm working on it. Yeah, I'm working on it. I'll shoot you over. I'll email you over a chapter, and you can see what you think.
Honestly, Henry, you've been brilliant. I've said that you're charismatic, and you really are. Your stories that you've told, I can see by the comments and everybody watching. It's been riveting. I love.
Oh, Jace.
Getting
my dear mate Jason. We love you too, Jace.
Oh, who's that? Who's Jace?
My Spicer 336.
Is that he repairer?
He is, and he is the best.
Hello.
He is the best.
Thank you for joining us. Oh, Henry, what are you up to now then? Anything planned for the evening?
I'm going to be walking the dogs in a minute.
Lovely.
And prepping up a little bit of dinner. It's nearly wine o'clock.
Yes, of course.
Obviously, I'll walk the dogs first.
We should have had a glass of wine each.
Well, I've got to drive though, so
Oh yeah, no, I don't drink and drive. No, that's not good. No. It's a bit probably too early for a glass of wine.
Well, it's never too early for a glass of wine. You see them at Kempton in the summer, don't you? 7 o'clock in the morning, and they're sitting out there at their tables with their bread rolls and their bottles of wine. It amazes me.
I haven't seen that. I never venture outside there, but when I go to Palma, I go to the Palma Riviera. Always around 12 o'clock, you can see the Italians. They get the table out. They put the linen, the tablecloth down. They get the bottle of wine out. They have that fizzy red over in Palma. I forget what it's called, but it's bloody nice. But it's really alcoholic. It's got a high percentage rate. made the mistake once. I was talking to someone doing a deal, and they said, "Oh, have a glass of this," and you know, and I said, "Oh, I like red wine," and they said, "Oh, it's fizzy," and I took a swig, you know, like, and it wasn't in a wine glass; it was in like a big sort of, you know, glass.
Yeah.
And I took a big swig back, and I was like nearly falling asleep at the end of the day. I felt, you know, God, what was in that? But as I say, I think it's got a really high alcoholic rate, that wine.
Yeah.
But they all sit there, they've got all the bread, the cheese, the Parmigiana, but they know how to live, don't they, the Italians?
Do indeed. They do indeed.
We've got to learn a lesson from them.
We have. We have.
Anyway, Henry, I'm going to cut you off
That's
now
fine.
and say
I'm used to that. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join the chat and listen to me. Victoria, you are an absolute bloody legend, my darling, and I love you to bits. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me. See you at the next Kempton.
Yeah, definitely. I shall come and give you a big hug.
Please do.
You take care and avoid those grass seeds.
Oh, I will.
Lots of love.
Lots of love, darling.
I'm going to let Henry go, everyone, now. So
bye, everyone.
Bye. Oh, wasn't he an angel? I love Henry. He's so lovely. I really enjoyed chatting to him. Oh my God, I could have carried on. He had so much to tell us. All the skullduggery stories about the pieces that he bought, and the guy, my God, and ended up on Crime Watch. Who'd have thought it? It's amazing. But no, I really loved joining him. Henry, you were so sweet, and thank you for taking the time out to come and join me in my live. Listen, guys, and thank you all for joining in and watching. I don't know how I come across. Sometimes I'm just bloody winging it. But I'm excited because next week I've got a girl gang on, a woman I really respect in business. I don't know if any of you know Catherine Southam. She's another professional that's often featured on the TV. I don't know that she does Dickinson's deals, but I think she's more BBC. I think she does Antiques Road Trip and a few other things. Flog It, I think she does, and she's got her own antiques auction. And she's a lovely lady, very knowledgeable, and I think very good fun, very cheeky, I think Catherine is. So I'm really going to look forward to having a chat with her. I think everyone brings something different to the table. Every person that I chat to, you know, whether they're an antique dealer, an antique auctioneer, you know, whatever, we've all got a story to tell. So I really, really enjoy it. I'm sorry if I've missed some of your questions, guys, but thank you so much. Hi, Diane. I see you're there. Hi, Ashley. My blonde star babe. I've got a present for you. You know what it is. That's just a private joke between Ashley and I. Anyway, I am going to go because we've got to put the jewels to bed. It is, what is it, nearly 4:20. Okay, guys. God, I can't believe where the time's gone. Anyway, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going now. Bye.